Back in August of 2024, I finally fulfilled one of my all-time dreams of visiting Japan at least once. In addition to finding all the stores I could find that could sell visual novels in Akihabara, which I covered in a previous video, one of the other side goals I had was attempting to visit as many notable visual novel location landmarks as I could in real life. Sadly, many of them I wanted to go to were just locations that were too far for a one-week trip in Tokyo, so I settled on finding some locations within Tokyo which were thankfully enough to satisfy me. As my hotel and primary home base was in Akihabara for that week, it was easy to find locations related to Steins Gate, as that's where the entirety of that story takes place. However, I would say the most notable location is the Akihabara Radio Kaikon, a background area that has a few notable scenes with Okabe and a few other characters. My hotel was a 5-minute walk to this, so I passed by it many times and even went inside a handful of times. It has a whole lot of good anime and even visual novel merchandise. In my video about visual novel stores in Akihabara, I specifically went to K-Books on the 3rd floor of the building that has a few aisles of visual novel merch, but the floor is just jam-packed with plenty of anime stuff, alongside the floors above and below having even more options for anime and even trading card game specific stuff. Staying on the topic of science adventure, I visited the legendary Shibuya Crossroads. This is a location that is featured in multiple Japanese created media, but in terms of visual novels, it's the main setting for both Chaos Head and Chaos Child. A very notable building landmark is the tall one that says 109, which is in Chaos Head showing as 107, which I assume is to not have copyright. I had the opportunity to get a snapshot from that building from far away while crossing the legendary Shibuya Crossing. I was tempted to try to find that manga lounge that the characters went to in Chaos Child, but my week in Japan was extremely booked, so I was fine leaving that part out. The first visual novel location that I purposely went out of my way to look for was Inokashira Park. This is an area in the city Musashino and is noteworthy for me because it's one of the main areas consistently gone to in the Kara no Shoujo series by Innocent Gray. This is a series that I first read through Shirafune's The Shell release, so it was fresh on my mind. A lot of the park did look pretty similar to how it looked in Kara no Shoujo's backgrounds and CGs. What was definitely my favorite highlight as far as finding visual novel notable location landmarks was finding a few places related to Majikoi Love Me Seriously or Maji de Watashi ni Koishi Nasai, my personal favorite visual novel of all time. To do that, I had to take a bunch of subway train rides all the way south to the Kawasaki prefecture. Thankfully, the path there led me to the first landmark for Majikoi, the equivalent of the Bridge of Weirdos. You know, the one where the characters constantly interact with the other goofy side characters and Momoyo usually beats up some characters wanting to challenge her. In real life, this place is called the Daishi Bridge. All things considered, it was kind of like crossing a standard long bridge that maybe took like 10 to 15 minutes to cross the whole thing by walking. My favorite part about it, besides the fact that this is a bridge inspired by Majikoi, was seeing all the grass and being right above the Tama River. Even though I dreaded the summer weather as it was constantly around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, it was really nice to see natural rivers and grasslands in summer on top of a bridge. Pretty nice view. Connected to the Daishi Bridge is a pathway that was clearly the inspiration of the pathway the Kazama family took every time they walked to school every morning, at least in the original Majikoi. Seeing this area in real life brought me great nostalgia, as it made me wonder if the author either knew someone or personally grew up in this area, having to walk to school or something every day, and well, the grass was pretty nice to look at, but as said above, I was mostly just incredibly biased. I got to basically be an Majikoi equivalent in real life. The final visual novel landmark I tried was also the final Majikoi one, was finding the equivalent of the Kawakami Temple, aka the dojo where Momoyo, Wanko, and many of their mentors are constantly training, with some notable battles that took place there in Majikoi-esque Koyuki route. If you didn't know, Buddhist temples are pretty common throughout Japan, so it might be kind of hard to figure out which ones looks like which. Thankfully, through I believe some Reddit comments, I was able to find out which temple was most likely the Kawakami Temple was based on. That temple was the Kawasaki Daishi, only about a 5-minute train ride from the Daishi Bridge. It was interesting to compare this temple to the one I went to earlier in my trip. The Sensoji Temple, a very popular tourist temple in Tokyo where a lot of stuff is clearly set up to bait in tourists, but still able to do a bunch of the temple stuff like praying, fortunes, water cleaning, and all that stuff. To contrast, this Kawasaki Daishi Temple was a lot more low-key and quiet, which probably helps that the city itself was a lot more low-key and quiet compared to a lot of areas in Tokyo I went to. I think I did do one prayer here, probably just praying to whatever Buddhist gods for thanking me for letting me find Majikoi landmark on my first trip to Japan or something. But yeah, that's all I was able to do in my personal trip to Japan in August of 2024. Hopefully, when I go on future Japan trips, there are a bunch of visual novel landmarks I want to visit outside Tokyo, including a few places from Clannad ranging from Mizuho, Osaka, and Tohoku, the chapel at Flying Fish Manor from If My Heart Had Wings in Tsuchiura City, an ARCOS building from Fukuoka referencing Gaia and Rewrite, Shirakawa City and shrine that Higurashi is clearly based on, and well, many more. In fact, I found a few sites that straight up have screenshots and write-ups in Japanese that are locations from various visual novels including White Album 2, Making Lovers, Fate Stay Night, Dies Irae, and Musicus. I've also seen Google Map marker lists of many places from Ubisoft visual novels which I'll likely refer to in the future. I'll link all the references to visual novel locations IRL I found in the description. But yeah, that wraps up the video. Hopefully you enjoyed my quick look into visual novel locations IRL that I was able to visit, as well as a wish list for future locations. Feel free to leave your thoughts on the video, areas you want to see, or any locations you've been to that I have not mentioned so I can add them to the wish list.